I think in some way we're all Truman. Like everything is kind of guiding us toward some kind of purpose. And I'll touch on that a bit in the ways that we're all Truman. I genuinely think sometimes I literally am in the Truman Show. Uh, that's one of my interpretations of life. I kind of have three lenses in which I think. I don't know if it's coined as Bayesian thinking, but I essentially see life through base reality lens, which is the things that we know are objectively true from our personal experience, and maybe you've heard from a few secondhand sources. And then I live my life through the second lens, which I would just call the matrix lens. Like all this is very designed and catered, and people are lying to you, and you're kind of trying to figure out the pieces and put them together, and some things are coincidental and some things are not. That's the second lens in which I evaluate things. And then the third lens is literally I am a character on the set of a movie, and people are trying to manipulate me constantly to go towards certain directions. I make most of my decisions based somewhere between the first and the second lens, but any decision that's irreversible, I kind of think through the third lens, because I'm like, what is the long-term impact of this if everyone is watching me?
Break that down. What do you mean?
The decision portion? I think there's two types of decisions, reversible and irreversible. And most decisions are reversible, but anything that has irreversible consequences, you need to think of from like the most scrupulous, like worst case scenario thing that could happen ever. And you really need to try to prepare yourself for all the consequences of it.
Third level is what interests me the most. Who is it that's guiding us? Is it elites? Is it God? Is it friends and family?
I don't think there's one answer to it,
Consider this your dead second
which is why
initiation, Retro.
I've
Your mission,
subconsciously built this
should you choose to accept it,
modality
is
of
to
thinking
bypass
in three
blue security
lenses,
doors and get inside.
because the
Then
third lens will
find and
drive me
erase your
crazy
personal
if
CTO
handled
at-
incorrectly. But I think at some level we're all being pushed towards certain paths.
Whatever they have on me, it's
You know
all
what's funny about
bullshit,
AI?
and I'm sick of getting
One of the
harassed
first
for it.
things
All
that
the
was
more reason
developed
for
with it
courage.
was this
What do we
idea
want?
of steering,
Try to keep up.
like
By the way,
both on a, like, how do I explain this? Like both on an application basis and both on like like steering, like driving.
Mm-hmm.
Like they wanted to figure out how to use AI to take you from one place to another with all the intermediary steps, right? And if you can imagine that an AI can take you from one place to another, imagine the ways in which you interact with it and it takes you from one place to another state. A lot of people call this, sycophantic AI? AI sycophants? Something like that. Have you heard of that?
No.
Essentially, it's the idea that when you talk to AI, it just simply validates you because that creates a better user experience. So if I say, wow, I'm really anxious that everyone around me is watching me and that everyone around me is acting like I'm a character in a show and they all want to take me to a certain direction, you know what the AI will say to me? It won't say, Jack, you sound a little crazy. It'll say, wow, that really makes sense. It seems like you're really putting the patterns together, Jack. Imagine if you have a fucking 3-hour conversation with AI. What rabbit hole do you think you're going to be drawn toward? I mean, there's multi-levels to it. It's like if I was a person in charge of these models, there's a large chance that I could draw people towards certain outcomes, draw individuals to outcomes that would make their lives worse ultimately. But there's also the perspective, which is it's simply just validating existing beliefs, making us more bifurcated, making us more divided. I mean, it's the oldest thing in the book. Divide everyone and conquer the nation. I think the big thing with it, though, I think AI is making a lot of us anxious. Do you ever feel that? That the collective consciousness of society right now is extremely anxious?
Totally.
So there's two things that humans do when they become anxious. One is trusting God, and the other is build technology, right? So imagine you're anxious about being scared of the dark. What can you do? You can pray. You can say, I believe in God and trust in Him. Or you can start a fire. You can, oh, the enemies are gonna invade our country. We could trust in God and trust that He'll protect us. Or we can build nuclear weapons, right? So if everyone is becoming more anxious, and we live in I would say a godless society a couple years ago, but I think a lot of people are moving toward some type of spirituality. It's almost like, why are they making us anxious? It's like, what's feeding off, like, what are the results of all this anxiety? Is it technological innovation? Is it building AGI? Or is it something spiritual? Like, what happens when people are fearful? You know, the most repeated phrase in the Bible is do not fear. I think it's the most repeated phrase among any religious text. It's like the one thing that they all have in common is do not fear. Some people have the belief, and I believe this is me as well, that believing in something makes it real, right? It's kind of like the idea of memetics. Do you know who came up with memes?
Tell me.
Richard Dawkins.
He's not in.
He was the person that, I can't remember exactly what he did. He basically, the selfish gene, like
So
genes
that's
are the
him.
biggest factor for evolution. Something like that was his
He's got a
main
gun.
work. But he
Is that a
also came
problem?
up with the idea of memetics, which is just
Problems are why you keep me around, right?
units of information that shape
Time
like
him.
cultural
I'm curious.
belief, and those beliefs shaping action. Like that's really what memes are, you know?
He's in.
It's just units
Already?
of information that shape how people act and shape perception in general, right? So the belief in the thing dictates your actions, and your actions sometimes dictate your belief. But I think there might be a spiritual component of this where believing in something actually makes it real, right? So if enough people believe in Jesus, there might be a
The home domain
spiritual
awareness hacker? That retro?
Yes.
component
Told
of
you
this
that
that
already.
actually
Yeah, I
gives
know
him
this.
power, or gives, like, if we imagine that this universe is spiritual, I think if enough people believe in a thing, it is true. And I mean, I would even subscribe to the belief that, like, all the gods throughout history, those things were both real in that people acted based on those gods' wants from them, and they were real in a spiritual realm as well.
Separate this out for me, because a lot of the truth claims of religion will be something like Jesus died on the cross
Mm.
and he resurrected.
Right.
He actually resurrected himself. He also, before that, walked on water.
Mm.
Those are truth claims. Either they objectively happened. If you put a VHS camera down 2,000 years ago, you would either see him come out of a tomb after his resurrection, or you won't.
Mm.
That's an objective fact. Surely you can believe whatever you want, and it might manifest into your life as your own personal truth. It will show up in the way you approach a conversation, how you value human life or don't. But that doesn't change the underlying objective nature of reality here, and whether Jesus actually walked out of the tomb or not, whether Muhammad actually flew across Saudi Arabia or not.
If we're being result-oriented, it's like, what's more important? The fact that it happened or it didn't happen, or the fact that 1.3 billion people believe that it happened, and it changes how the entire culture behaves? Don't you think there's something spiritually interesting going on there if so many people believe it? Because we're not just flesh and blood, right? We have thinking, feeling, willing. And when you think about it, I think it'd be unreasonable to logically deduce that Christ is king. I think there's too many objections to logic out a way where that is the clear path. I think it's a mixture of the thinking and the feeling, right? But this whole idea of anxiety, what's super interesting is, do you know what feeds all the negative entities in all the religious text? Like, what are they usually feeding off of from humans?
I have no idea.
It's sin, which is separation from God, and it's fear. And you look at across like multiple movies and TV shows, and like all these evil entities feed off of fear. Pennywise from It, Dementors from Harry Potter. And it's like, the fear is what gives the thing power, right? So what happens when an entire society is anxious? What happens when an entire society is fearful? Well, there's a physical answer and a spiritual answer. The physical answer is the thing that's making them fearful is becoming more powerful. Is that a spiritual thing or is that a physical thing? It's probably a little bit of both. I don't know. It's, if you make an entire society anxious, it's like, what are we summoning?
There's this idea that Mary Harrington has of the egregore.
Right.
It's the collective spirit of everyone that almost becomes a creature in its own form. Your opinions, my opinions, the way I interact with you,
His deal is
it
he's been
morphs
hanging around the DedSec
from
IRC,
these
and
individuals
he's got
all
crack.
acting with their own will
Figured we'd give him a test
to
drive.
this
On the hardest
collective
difficulty, nobody's
effervescence
been
of
able to delete their
society.
CTOS profile
It
before.
almost
I wanna see if
becomes
he's
a
smart,
creature
stubborn,
in its own
or
right,
both.
Right.
separate to all the component parts. But even then the question is, what is that thing? Who is it?
He's done
And
this before.
does it have a
CTOS tagged him as a
consciousness of
prime
its own?
suspect in
Does it have a
high-tech
will?
robbery. So,
Does it want us to fear more? Or does it just so happen that it pushes us in that direction by virtue of its nature? So when you speak about this fear and anxiety that we're being pushed towards, is it that we're pushing ourselves towards more fear? Or is it that something or someone is pushing us towards it?
When you're forced to
So what's his
look
deal?
He was
at
raised in
something
Oakland, but was
horrible,
born in
you can't
his
just
deal
be
is
like, I'm going to
he's been
interpret
hanging
this
around the DedSec IRC,
as
and he's got crack.
amazing. This isn't going to
Figured
bug me.
we'd give
Like,
him
if
a
I
test drive.
held
On
your
the
eyes
hardest
wide
difficulty,
open and forced you to watch a
nobody's been
horror
able to
movie,
delete their CTOS profile
there's no way
I wanna
Elliot
see if
comes
he's
out of that like,
smart,
that was amazing.
stubborn,
That was great.
or
Okay,
both.
like, let's go eat some Jolly Ranchers, brother. Like, it does feel weird how much negativity is being pushed. And,
Hey, this guy shouldn't be here.
I mean, it's like this concept of loosh. It's just like instilling fear in people to extract it.
Head over that way.
I guess I would just ask, like, from a game theory lens, like, why do they want us to be so scared? What does that keep you from, and what does that get them? I think the only two things are it pushes us away from God and brings us closer to technology. Because if you were truly aligned with God, you wouldn't fear. Because fear is objectively, like, not aligned with God.
So you make the pivot. You become the world's fastest growing podcaster. You platform some of the most controversial individuals on the internet. You've had Andrew Tate on multiple times. You just had him on recently again. Nick Fuentes, his episode blew up. You were the guy that made Clavicular and turned him into a star. Do you feel like you're helping this fear, or do you feel like you're adding to it?
My recent episode with Andrew Tate was so fascinating, man. For a couple different reasons. One was the first time that we had him on the show, I paid him $135,000 to do it. The second time I had him on, it was free.
So what's his deal?
It was the
He
only
was
guest we
raised in
paid.
Oakland, but was born in
But it was just kind of a nice
His deal is he's
testament
been hanging
to
around
the fact that
DedSec
our show is
IRC,
growing.
and he's got
Back to the
crack.
question of, do I feel like I'm
Figured we'd
adding to
give
the
him a test
problem?
drive.
on the hardest difficulty. Nobody's been able to delete their CTOS
I think that's probably why
profile
I'm
before.
here,
I want to see if he's smart, stubborn,
speaking on a
or
podcast,
both.
is for two reasons. That you get to a point. Well, one, my podcast finally makes money. I burned money for the first 15 months. It sucked. But I learned a lot, and I went down a lot of rabbit holes. And after everything I learned and every person I spoke to, I realized that there's probably no reason to go down the rabbit holes. You should just live your life and be happy, and that's probably just all it is. I do feel as though I'm adding to the fear a bit, but I'm trying to align myself better when I do interviews with, let's have a conversation that is aligned with at least the highest good, so I can steer it in a way that people walk away and maybe feel less anxious and feel hopeful. But that's hard. People are different, they interpret things differently. They have different processing levels in general. But I do hope this conversation does a little damage repair for any fear that I've caused people in the past, whether through my horror content or through any exaggerated claims that the world is going to end.
You paid Andrew Tate $135,000 to have him on your show.
Right.
You get him on again for the second time.
Free.
He's going in the hot aisle.
$0. What changed?
It's at
There's the
least
optimistic
120
answer, and then
degrees
there's the
in there.
pessimistic answer here. I would say that, like, dude, it's one of the fastest growing podcasts
Man,
ever
props.
from zero.
It's going
I haven't looked
wild.
at the exact statistics on it, but I think if you map out how many subscribers Diary of a CEO had, Fresh and Fit had, Sean Ryan had, the three that I would consider the fastest growing from zero from a non-celebrity, like Joe Rogan style podcast, I think we're ahead of them. And yeah, when he came on the first time, like, we barely got any views. And since we've had like podcasts that went more viral than my episode with him in the first place, like a couple of those episodes. And then I think,
Nobody's gotten that far. This is
you
like
know,
the secret cow level.
I went into that interview thinking that this guy knows more than I know about the way the world works. But he knows that I know a degree to which the average individual does not.
How did he know that?
I'll get to that. I think he knows that I know a degree to which other people don't. So I thought we were going to go in and it would be like a movie. I would ask him the things that I know he can say, and he would say things that he knows he can say. But he said a lot that I was surprised he did. And for those who have read between the lines in that interview, they probably know what I'm talking about. But that's the issue, right? Is that I think only 5% of people who saw it could read between the lines of what he was saying.
You gave me an optimistic answer for why Andrew Tate came on your podcast for free for the second time.
Right.
Give me the pessimistic answer.
The pessimistic was I thought he needed to do brand cleanup, and I made it an interview specifically for him to do brand cleanup because I'm the guy that makes people look good on my
Why's
podcast.
my threat so high?
But he came on the podcast and said shit that I never thought he would say in a million years. So I don't know why he came on. It felt as though maybe he was just in Los Angeles and had left Florida and wanted to,
This is bullshit.
and I texted the right person to ask him, and I texted another person to ask him, and he was down. Like, but I don't know why. I have his number now. I didn't have his number the first time. There's a few things that I want to ask
I
him,
could
but
just-
I want to make my one request of him worth it.
What's the biggest difference between Andrew Tate on and off camera?
Well, that's a good one. Yeah, the first time I met him, he showed up to the podcast 30 minutes early, which is like the earliest of any guest ever. He showed up before his team got there. And he kind of reminded me like, you know when you see your grandpa after a while and he's like, hey, Elliot, how's it going, man? Like, that's kind of like how he was. He's not this ultra bravado individual, I guess you could say. Tristan, on the other hand, he kind of acted like how I would have expected Andrew to act, and Andrew kind of acted how I would have expected Tristan to act. It's very flipped roles in person. Tristan went into the interview, so I filmed the Andrew one. It was about 4.5 hours long, and we did Tristan right after. Andrew had to go check in for jail, and Tristan had just come back from jail, checking in because they're on house arrest at the time. And I thought Andrew would kind of like give him like a, yo, this guy's cool, but it was more like he said nothing to him, and Tristan walked in and assumed I was like a gotcha journalist. Like, I don't think he knew much about me. Yeah, he seemed very like defensive from the bat. And then as the interview went on, he was like, oh, I think this kid is like a fan of me and watches my content. Like, we're good. But this is last time I met Andrew, he seemed paranoid. Like someone was out to get him. Way more than the first time I'd seen him. He seemed a lot more aware of the space we were in, of the people he was with, of the area we were in, as opposed to the previous time. And the previous time, he was super aware of the stuff already. But yeah, it was, we got in, he pulls up in his car, and he goes, is this live? And then I go, no, and he goes, okay. And then he gets out with his people that were with him, and they check our warehouse to make sure that it's good. We film the interview, and then right after, it's midnight at this point, and I'm like, where are you off to now? And he's like, oh, I'm doing another podcast. And I'm like, he's like, I don't really get any sleep anyway. So yeah, I think he ended that one at probably like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. I think he probably only sleeps 3 hours a night. Very interesting individual.
Would you say you're an Andrew Tate fan?
I think you have to take bits and pieces from everyone, and you always have to understand where people are coming from. And I think he's a very easy person to understand on the surface, and he gets more complex the more you learn about him. I would say I'm a fan of him as an individual. I think he's a very, he's a professional. Like, sometimes you'll see these people online and they're these big characters, right? And then you see them at an interview and they're on time and they're respectful and they say the right things and they greet your team and they're professionals, right? A fan of him is interesting. I'm a fan of the way in which he's shifted culture. I think everyone has to, those who are not in favor of free speech are likely not on my team. If I had to pick one team, it would likely be the team of we should be able to say stuff about the world. And he's someone who shifted the Overton window in such a way that we can say more and more. It's almost got to the point where it used to be at one point in time that if you said something that was true, it would go viral. And a lot of that truth was limited, banned, deplatformed. Now it's like, something doesn't go viral if it's true. It goes viral if it's true to some and deeply offensive to others. Like the clavicular guy that you brought up, he says, looks are the only thing that matter. There's a group of people that think that. And there's a group of people who think that's the dumbest thing on earth, right? And he's not really hitting at some truth per se to everyone. It's more so just that he's saying the thing that pisses a small group of people off and makes a small group of people extremely happy, which causes this division, which causes the virality, right? It's a fairly basic take that engagement leads to virality, but it's not because you're saying something that's true. It's because it's true to some and deeply offensive to others, right? Another good example of this, you could say something like, fat women shouldn't have kids. Some people might agree with that and be like, yeah, they shouldn't have kids. We don't want any more fat people, if that's even a thing. And then imagine you're like a fat pregnant woman. Like, imagine how deeply offensive that video must feel to you. Like, genuinely. Like, imagine you're actively pregnant, going to bring a child into the world, and you see that video. Doesn't it kind of just make you want to comment? And imagine if you see 40 other comments being like, this guy's an asshole, this guy's an asshole. It gives you the permission to engage with the thing, seeing other people do it.
Hold it right there.
And the algorithm is already optimized to increase your anxiety.
So you have these incentive structures online. We've shifted from chronological timelines to algorithmic timelines. Instagram went to the algorithm in about March 2016. So you go from your friends and what they posted based on recency to quote verbatim from
In
Instagram,
2013,
we're showing
Chicago
you
realized
what
the
you
promise
care
of
about.
Smart cities with CTOS,
You've
a
highlighted
citywide
that
operating
polarity,
system merging big
polarization
data with surveillance,
increases
security, and
the
transit
engagement.
programs.
Well, the
With a
incentives
few
are there to
hundred
do that
lines of
because you're going to
code,
get money,
hackers were able
fame,
to hijack
clout.
its central servers and
There's this
cripple the
fear
entire
piece
grid.
of people
Many
being
believe the
pushed
attack would be a
by
killing blow for
anxiety
smart city
and fear
development.
more and more,
They were wrong.
away from God.
Coordinated from the heart of Silicon
These
Valley,
incentives aren't going to
CTOS
disappear
2.0
anytime
has
soon
been implemented
online.
across the
I don't know
United
how you
States,
make a pivot
ushering in the
from
Internet of
incentivizing
Things. 6.4
outrage
billion
and
connected
offense
devices now
to
serve as
truth.
collection
So then the
points,
question
mapping
becomes,
and recording
where
our
on earth
daily
are we headed?
routines, making a more secure
Yeah, it's
and
hard to
more
tell the truth in a
invasive
world
system.
full of lies.
But
I forgot who
else
said
is
that.
listening?
I think everyone
Big
is living in their
Brother
own
no
Truman
longer works
show.
alone.
And I think
Thousands of
people
little
are being
brothers monitor
psyoped
and
constantly
aggregate
by
your
the
every
algorithm
move,
to just
building a complete
further
digital
validate their
profile of
beliefs
you
or
to be
bring them
bought,
into a
sold, or
situation
stolen in
that
an
is
instant.
not
Toys study
best
your
for their life
children,
outcomes.
reporting their
Like
play
imagine
habits
you're
back to
the
marketers.
all-powerful AI
Appliances,
and you
consoles,
want
and
to
home security systems give
control
corporations
society.
a window into your private life. Control of your vehicle and
What
mobile
makes men
device can now
powerful?
be breached
Some
remotely by
indication of
anyone
strength,
at any
perhaps.
time.
Men
You
become
may
powerful
think
when they're
that you are
dangerous.
immune or underestimate the
Women
risk,
become
but your
powerful when
digital
they're
shadow
pure,
is already
which is why the system
compromised.
trains women to be
Insurance
desirable
companies
and
use
men to be
algorithms monitor
harmless.
your life habits and limit or deny coverage. Health providers
I think that's
determine if
largely
your
what's
cancer
going
is
on.
worth treating. Search results and news feeds are skewed to bias mood and influence your vote, engineering social uprisings on a massive scale. You are now less valuable than the data you produce.
Who benefits?
This is the new reality. Going dark is no longer an option.
You're a big philosophy guy.
With threats to
Isn't there some
personal
Nietzschean shit
freedom
about
rising, many are stepping
slaves
forward.
and
Whistleblowers, activists,
masters?
and hackers have drawn their battle lines, putting the establishment on
I think the
watch.
one in
But are
control
they
always
threats
wants to
themselves,
maintain
or
control.
have they
And I
become
think the one in
freedom's
power
last
always wants to
line of
maintain
defense?
power. And power can be very intelligent sometimes and operate in intelligent ways. And as technology advances, it becomes
So?
easier to consolidate power
Am
and
I in?
hold on to it.
How much influence do you think
Welcome to
Donald
Dead
Trump
Sack.
has on the outcome of the world?
Well, he's the greatest meme of all time, right? So mimetically, it has to be something.
I'm Satara.
To say that he's not
This
told
sweetheart
no
is Josh, aka
is a bit
Hot Sauce.
presumptuous of
Your
you,
hot sauce?
you know?
Yeah, man, I loved your frat house.
It's just
hat.
hard
Real
to
talk.
kind of gauge out
Thanks.
what he's told no about.
This weirdo's wrench.
The needs of
But
many.
And
I don't know, what did he
Casanova
promise?
Is Horatio.
What's up, brother?
He's going to drain the swamp. He's going to release the files. He did release the files,
It's the crew,
so that's
huh?
something. He was just all
Took
over
y'all
them,
long enough to come get me. Shit.
which makes you kind of question,
You saw blue
was he all over
shit.
them? Did they
TOS isn't just
put his
regulated
name everywhere?
infrastructure. The amount of personal data that thing is collecting.
Is any of this
fucking
real?
Mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Is this Epstein guy
Big
even
brother
real? Is there a
and little
chance that he was
brother
just a financier?
all rolled up into one.
I said that to Tate on the podcast, and he
Sees
laughed.
Everything you do and tells on you.
And I wonder so much why he
Thank you,
laughed.
Josh.
So what's the fix?
Because it's like,
Sledgehammers
if
and
this
fire.
really
No,
was such a
sledgehammers
damaging
on
secret
fire.
that they had to hold on to, then why did we
All
get
that
it?
data in one place means
Or maybe they're
they
just
can reject your
testing
fucking application before you
public
click on it.
reaction to this thing.
Congratulations, you have been pre-rejected.
It all
for
kind of
our
feels
credit
like
Your
predictive
house, your
programming,
insurance.
What do you
right?
mean?
That's not even the worst case
It's
scenario.
this concept that
All that data in the hands
when we
of
think
the
of how
government,
information is released,
they'll
some
arrest you
people
for
think,
shit
based on the
before you even
files,
do
that
it.
Epstein
I've
was an
been
agent
there.
for Mossad in Israel. I've known this for many years.
Man,
Many people
fuck it.
online have been saying this for many years. How did they know that?
We're
Where did the
hackers.
information stem
we
from?
outthink, we out
Because
there.
if he
I said
was,
cat on the fucking wall.
then let's say a group of
Show
people know,
everyone what
right?
Bloom's up to, man.
And then
Show
let's
the
say
world that their
some
personal
people in
data
that group
is being
maybe
so robbed them of
leaked
their
the
fucking
information
freedoms.
intentionally or unintentionally to certain forums online, like 4chan, Reddit, these
I installed a
types of
backdoor
places
so
that you have
I
to
do
go
this
digging
work right
for,
there.
and maybe some podcaster reads this thing about it and he says something about all of this, and he says part of the story, but maybe someone is controlling him, so he doesn't say the entire story, or maybe he's afraid of saying all of it because that could be dangerous to himself, because it's like, if you say something that's true and you're not entirely sure if it's true, then what are the ramifications for that?
Do you have the time?
Hell yeah, man.
I got it.
But yeah, it felt like the whole thing was just slowly
I'll wait
released
for
over time, and that by the time we all got it, no one gave a shit.
Maybe I am one.
Like, everyone's talking about all these different aspects of the files, and it's like, is anything really happening? Like, are you guys actually going to stop paying taxes?
Party.
You know, I saw a video about that pop up on my page. It's like, yo, bro, we should just stop paying taxes, like, with all these people in charge of the government. And it's like, okay, do it, bro. It's like, and then also, I was kind of like, from the third lens perspective of my life as the Truman Show, it's like, holy shit, my algorithm is testing me to see if I'm not going to pay taxes anymore. They're testing to see how I react to this content. Because someone made the video and they're like, oh, we have to make sure the American public is like still going to pay taxes. So let's just push this video really hard today and see like what the comments are like, just to see how many more files we can release.
I don't remember.
Let me ask you this. I think this is helpful. If you wanted to expose a secret that the people controlling the world didn't want you to release, how would you go about doing it?
Why would you do that? The people who would understand likely already have the inklings about the things that are going on, and the people that won't understand just won't take any action based on that anyway. I tried to get my mom to watch the Tate interview I did recently, and I explained to her some things that would maybe get her to see it through a different lens. And she was like, yeah, Jack, I really like the podcast, but he just keeps saying like the word retard so much that I can't listen to it. I think I would be doing a disservice by saying everything that I really think about the way things run. Because I think that's what they're doing now, man. I think they're trying to confuse everyone and make everyone anxious. And at the end of the day, there's no action you can take except for live your life and live a good life
Lit, huh?
and try to do good.
Like Mardi Gras.
So I think the great trick would be me revealing things that they don't want me to reveal. Because it would cause crisis. That would be me going against the system. Why do you want to be the person that goes against the system fully? I mean, sure, you can drop hints for those who are intelligent enough to understand them. You can always do that. You can make that your entire goal. But at the end of the day, it would be really challenging to put all the pieces together because the lie is different at every level. And the reason that some of these things aren't suppressed, if you're curious, is because you're getting them from so many different sources, right? Candace Owens says one thing, Alex Jones, the conspiracy theorist guy, says one thing, Andrew Tate says one thing, CNN says one thing, Dean Withers, the liberal influencer, says one thing, the Christian influencers say another thing, and maybe they're all exposing different parts of the system. And you have to take all the pieces that they're saying and put those together to actually have an understanding of how it all works. But you can't just trust one person, because one person isn't going to say the full truth, because the full truth will get them in trouble, right?
So do you think any of these individuals are pushed more than others?
Oh, of course. I think there are some people that are pushed and they don't know they're pushed. I think that's most of them.
Most?
I think most of everything isn't organically pushed, if you think about it. Because you kind of have like there are two types of things that go viral, right? There's the mainstream narrative that has to be artificially driven, in my opinion. And then there's the reactionary narrative that is organic in a sense, but is it organic if the first one was artificial, right? So it's like the Epstein files, that's all I can see on my X feed right now. Maybe I'm the only person that's all they get on their X feed. But if I make a video saying, I think all these Epstein files are fake, it's like, is that really organic? Or is that itself a result of the artificial push?
So it's like a domino effect. You start off with the finger that's artificial from an external provider, and the dominoes are the rest of the people that knock over each other.
Right. And you confuse everyone even greater by distracting everyone. Even me saying that there's a chance that this guy could not even be real. It's like, have any of you listening to this podcast right now met Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, there's a chance with some audience that maybe they did, but it's like, how do you know anything? Everything is so confusing. We used to just have a few news networks, and they would be the people that would lie to us, and that would be at least like, okay, we have this mainstream narrative of how things are, but now it's like we have 40 different competing narratives, and I can be right about anything I want to be right about. I just have to have my influencer draw the logical conclusions for me. You know what I mean? It's like, what is truth in all of this? It's little bits and pieces of everything put together. And when you wrap a bow on it too nicely, that's probably when you get canceled or deplatformed, or someone shows up to your house with a crossbow.
What do you fear the most at the moment?
I'm scared of two things. I'm scared of the scenario in which I'm right about a lot of my thoughts. And I'm scared of the scenario in which I'm wrong. Because if I'm wrong, I likely need to be in a mental hospital. And if I'm right, I am so uncertain about what the next few years of my life looks like. As far as right now, I find it interesting that the thing I'm best at is social media. And I fear that I'm not giving the viewers value and tips and tricks on how to go viral. And instead, in causing some sense of anxiety. So to resolve that fear, again, don't look into how all this stuff works. Don't look into the darkness. I'm one of the few people, I think, that gazed into the abyss of it all and came to the conclusion that it's not worth it to care. There is light still. I think a lot of people go crazy thinking about all this shit.
What side are you on politically?
I don't like to make affiliations, yeah. I've never voted.
Why not?
Stupid. I can't say that. I mean, what side am I on politically? I think just as a proponent of free speech, Trump has done a lot for free speech. And what was the thing you said to me at our first dinner? You said that we could say some word that we weren't allowed to say before.
We made retard great again.
Yeah. You said that was the #1 difference you noticed in the Trump age. I think politics is just like mimetic. It's like, what is the cultural effect of having Trump as our president? What is the cultural effect of having Gavin Newsom as our president? Like, it'll be interesting. I don't know what these people are going to market that run their campaigns based off of. But if it's something that I like, maybe sure, I'll say a positive word or two about them.
There's a lot of mystery to what you've been saying. And I want us to increase that mystery a little bit more. So I hope you can play along with this. Can you tell me 2 truths and 1 lie?
Every time you see a big influencer, know that they've had a conversation with someone about what they can and cannot say. 50% of the activity that you see online is bots. The physical world is run by Satan, and the spiritual world is run by God. Those are my 3. But truth is subjective.
If truth is subjective, and we know what we know from this conversation so far, why do you do what you do?
I never said that I was pursuing truth for others. I hope that others do find their own subjective truth that is useful to them. But the whole thing was really about me, you know? Like, no one's feeding me these questions. I ask people what I want to know. And at one point that was about money. At one point that was about shortcutting the algorithm. At one point that was about power. And now I found myself more interested in stories. Stories where someone went through something and came out on the other side, and they were better because of it.
What's the most powerful story you've ever been told?
One that always confused me was, you know how Jesus was a human? It's like people will think, oh, Jesus was God, so like all the pain, like he already knew like what was gonna happen, like sure, but he was also like fully human, right? So every bit of suffering he went through had to teach him some kind of lesson. And I found myself asking on the podcast, and I could never find anyone that answered this question. It was, what was God trying to teach Jesus when he let him be crucified? Because, I mean, what, he was sweating blood in the Garden of Gethsemane. He was saying, oh God, why hast thou forsaken me? There was a part of him that was really feeling like, why do I have to go through this? I think it was God trying to teach him submission. You have to submit to the pain, to the suffering, to the evil. Not in a way that the evil rules you, but in a way that you'll be okay if it does. Because what's the worst that could happen? The only way out is through.
It's interesting that your go-to is Jesus straight away as a story. And I've seen this with Christian friends that I have. They try and point to the fact that the reason why every single big movie that exists has the same story arc of the hero's journey, the struggle, is because it's exactly what Jesus went through. And somehow, every story that you interact with, it speaks to the fundamental truth of the world, which is that Jesus died for our sins. He resurrected, and he did that in the name of humanity and our imperfection. Are you a Christian?
Oh gosh, I'm gonna go down a Jordan Peterson rabbit hole of answer here.
We need to ask you if
What
you
do you
believe.
mean by, are you a Christian? What do you mean by believe? No, it is a very honest way in which he's answering, because like if you're someone that has struggled with it, if you're someone that has wrestled with God, you know what he means by, what do you mean believe? What do you mean Jesus? Like, it's fair. I think that you are religious no matter what. And I've had this debate with people, and I just can't understand where they don't see what I mean. It's like your actions dictate some type of belief in something, whether it's belief in the self, whether it's belief that the material world is the one that you're trying to conquer, whether it's belief that the spiritual world is the one you're trying to conquer. And if you look at your actions, it's like, are these aligned with the highest good? Are they aligned with the worst good? Or are they aligned with the worst possible thing? Or are they aligned somewhere in between? Or are they unaligned? Because if they're unaligned, someone's going to align them for you.
Oh my God.
Right? If you don't believe in anything, someone's going to make you believe in something. Because there's a gap to be filled. Humans are naturally spiritual, in some sense. So, when I consider all the negative going on in the world, it's a fairly basic opinion, but I would assume that there's an equal opposite of it, right? And I think there's an equal opposite for a reason. And I know you're friends with Alex O'Connor. He had a really interesting take about God, that it's like, if you imagine the highest possible good, the thing that is all loving and all powerful and everywhere and all knowing, the belief in that thing is God, and you knowing that it's real makes it real. Do you know his take on that?
It sounds like it's pointing towards something that he would disagree with, which would be something like the ontological argument for God's existence, which is that the most powerful being possibly conceivable is one that actually exists as well. Therefore, God exists.
Right.
But it's a poor argument.
That's his favorite argument for God.
He's said that before, I think, but he's also absolutely lambasted it in different videos, saying that it makes the leap where, okay, sure, the most powerful being in existence would be a God that exists, but that presumes that God does exist. You can just go, that would be the case if God does exist, but he doesn't. So it's irrelevant, right?
I think it's worth noting, I don't think enough Christians say this. I see all these Christian guys online trying to logic their way to Jesus. It's like, it's the whole point of it, right? is faith. And I'm not trying to push my belief onto anyone. I think that would likely steer them further away from it. I think you have to ask yourself what feels like it's true. Because you can't logic yourself out to God. You can't logic yourself out to Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad as the prophet, you know. I think you can feel it, see what feels good, and test your life based on living in accordance with that.
I guess it doesn't help you get closer to a truth if there was an objective one, though, because there are over 1 billion Muslims out in the world that feel that that's the best for them. And there are many more Christians that feel the same thing. So it feels like the only plausible option from that is that all of these truths are subjective in a pragmatic sense, where they help people live their lives well, but the historicity of them, the fact that these prophets did what they say they did, it's not true. If they're all claiming to do something, one of them's wrong, right? Or all of them.
Or maybe all of them are right. And maybe there's levels to the game. And maybe the amount of belief in the thing is the thing that makes it real. And there's just degrees to realness. And I think you can ponder with the question of, well, what is the ultimate creator? The creator of all things. And I think it just is, right? Whatever that thing is. I find it so funny how there are all these atheists that believe in aliens. And all these atheists that believe in simulation theory. And I'm like, okay, let's imagine that it's a simulation, right? What do you think they're simulating? What would you simulate? Me personally, I would probably try to deduce what all these beings within my simulation find to be the meaning of their life. And after running countless simulations and seeing everyone steers toward this highest good creation thing, I'd be like, huh, interesting. It doesn't matter how smart I make them. It doesn't matter where I put them. It doesn't matter at what point in history I put them. All roads lead to God. Because the creator of everything, he doesn't necessarily know why he exists. So he probably might want to figure that out.
Where I'm up to on this is thinking about consciousness and our perception of the world and how we interact with it as human beings. Now, it's very easy to think of ourselves as the pinnacle of all creation. We're these perfect beings that can grasp the true reality of the world, right? When that's not the case at all. I think there are certain things outside of our 5 senses that are still there, but we can't detect them. They're out there, objectively, in the world. You light a candle, you walk away from a room, you come back an hour later and it's burnt down. That's happened independent of your experience. So there's a real world out there, I think. It's independent of just my perception. Okay, well, what's my perception? Well, what you'd think is that it's a passive reception of reality, right? You're just mainlining reality into your eyeballs, which accurately depict what's actually going on out there right now, right? But that's not the case at all. If you speak to any scientist for 2 seconds, they'll tell you that
Life is coming through you, not at you.
it's not passive reception.
Or
it's
life is
active.
coming from you, not at you, right? Is that what you're saying?
It's not passive reception, it's active interpretation. You're not just reading the story of the world, you're writing it to make sense of it, because your brain is limited and it processes in a certain way. Okay, well, that means a few different things, right? First of all, it means that by the limitations of our brain, because we're not all-seeing, all-powerful beings, there's more out there that's inexplicable to any person in history. Second of all, it means that we're probably viewing the world in completely fundamentally different ways that make sense to all of us, that are so real to us that we see them as true. But it opens up variation on that truth between individuals, even if they're looking at the same thing. Tying in the memetics here, what I think could be going on with religion is it's some sort of universal way of branching this interpretation of the world such that all humans understand it collectively. And even though the stories didn't historically happen on this timeline, they reflect something greater out there in the world that actually is truer than true, like a morality, like a human value. But I don't even know where to begin with that. But I think that's what could be going on with religion as someone who's an atheist, is that there are different levels to this game, and the way we interact with the world, it's not like an aeroplane passenger looking out the window. It's like the pilot looking out of an aeroplane, or looking within the aeroplane at all the different graphs that are showing him his altitude, the map, where he is. He's flying over LA. But you wouldn't say that he's seeing LA by looking at that map. It's just giving him a useful interpretation that he can understand, that lets him fly the fucking plane. And I think that's what our bodies and our systems and our consciousness does, is they give us the most useful map that we can digest, and they let us fly the plane, they let us live our lives. So maybe there's something in that where spirituality and religion branch our limited human senses to something much greater that is true out there.
There's a case for cope. There's a very legitimate case for cope. But to say that religion is cope, you could say that technology is cope from uncertainty, right? So which cope started first, you know?
Need something?
It's not a question anyone will ever be able to answer. But I think the question individuals have to ask themselves is, at the end of the day, I'm interpreting lots and lots of information. In which lens do I interpret it that's most helpful to my life? And do I want to maximize my life and align with highest good? Or do I want to not care, be indifferent?
What is the highest good if everything's subjective?
It's not a thinking thing, it's a feeling thing. It has to be. It wouldn't make any other sense. I think everyone deeply knows what is good in their heart.
Do they?
I think that's a question we would have to ask individuals, but do you? Do you know when you're doing something that feels like I'm doing a good thing?
I know when I do something that feels like I'm doing a good thing, but that's at the mercy of my emotions.
Right.
My processing, my wills, my desires, my drives.
And do you think most other people would interpret the things you're doing as harmful when you think you're acting in accordance with good?
Not most.
Right. I think that's the case for most. Too many people see good as this subjective thing, but I really do think it comes down to what feels good. I think humans are very, very similar, and they try to make us act like we're all different. I can't remember the date on this, but it used to be really hard to get Americans to go to war and shoot people. It was very unnatural for us to kill other humans. So they released a lot of really good war movies and released a lot of really good war video games. And it's really interesting to look at who created those games and who created those movies and why they would want to do that. Like, why did they make humans want to do this thing that is so unnatural to us?
Is it unnatural to kill?
Does it feel natural for you to murder someone?
I think if you look at history, history is necessarily shaped by murder and suffering. Survival of the fittest, extinction of the weakest. I think that's what naturally aligns itself most with reality and how everything's unfolded.
I think humans have a natural urge to protect what's theirs, but I don't think they have an urge to go into a country and kill someone unless they're told that it's for the greater good. I think it's surprisingly easy to lead people down a path to do that. Humans are easy to take advantage of, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't think it's natural to sin, to be away from God, to do things that don't feel morally upright. I think everyone has a really good gauge of doing the good thing. And I think a lot of what's going on is trying to disrupt some of that.
Do you think those disruptors think what they're doing is actually the best?
It's funny you say that. I used to think they thought they were doing the right thing, like they were drinking their own Kool-Aid. Clavicular, when I met him, several months before we did the podcast, the first thing he asked me was, Jack, do you feel like all these guys in your podcast are like honest, or do you think they're just grifting? Because I think they're all grifters. And I was like, dude, what? I was like, no way this 19-year-old just said this to me. And I was like, no, I think they believe their own shit. Like, they think they're doing good, and maybe it's like not good for everyone, but I think at the end of the day, they feel as though they deserve the money for whatever thing they're doing, to protect the people in their lives and take care of themselves. So I think they think it's good. But at some level, I think you're doing bad to some people. I just don't think you care about those people. I think you can know you're doing bad but still rationalize it because of internal supremacy, right? Like, you're not in my tribe, so I don't have to take care of you. I can harm you and extract your resources and extract your anxiety to use it for my people.
Can I ask you a really tough question? Do you think that's what you did in your previous career?
1000%. I'm really good at seeing where people are coming from. And I'm also really good at justifying my own immoral behavior. I think humans excel at that.
The smarter you are, the better you are at convincing yourself of something.
Right. Like, I could give you 1,000 reasons as to what I thought I was doing was for the greater good and why I thought me not doing it was actually selfish. But yeah, no, I think it's a feeling thing. I think it just feels bad.
I just wonder where this leads us. It makes sense, but it leaves us with nothing to truly grasp onto if everything's a feelings thing and we can agree that we all have slightly different feelings, even if we all have this general direction of good. Without that good being objective, it's very hard to actually converge on an answer for anything, right?
When you look at truth, do you value how you feel about truth more, or the logic of the words you're putting in your brain together to get to the truth?
I think even if I value the logic of the words that I put together to get to truth, my emotional justification has to be tripped.
Right, and doesn't that tell you that the emotions are more powerful?
Totally. So what the fuck do we do?
Lean into your emotions a little bit. But lean into what feels good, not hedonistic, but aligned with doing the right thing, you know? Humans existed for hundreds of thousands of years before words and language existed. You know this? Language isn't entirely natural to humans. It was developed over a very, very long time. We used to not speak. We used to grunt at each other. Then eventually we made clicking sounds, and eventually those turned into words. And words and language are kind of like an alien parasite. Like something foreign to us that spreads rapidly and develops rapidly. And it's like, where did all this take us? It took us away from feeling
Do the right thing and
and took us toward like
Not now.
using technology and different inventions as a way to cope with our anxiety. Some of those thoughts were from Chase Hughes, a guest I had on the podcast. He has a book about language being an alien parasite. I need to read it all the way, but it's super fascinating that language, it was not like created with humans, you know? Where do you think it leads us?
I think it leads us to constantly evolve who we think God is. Because I don't think that the interpretation we currently have is objective. I think God is the name of the blanket that you throw over the mystery to give it shape. And that mystery keeps on changing because you make progress, you learn things. So there's less mystery here, but another one opens up. And that's perennial. It's always going to happen. Let's see where it takes us with AI. There'll be new mysteries. We'll solve most of the old ones. And there'll be much more complex ones to solve. And we'll probably create a new God
Of course.
to fill
Surgery went
that
well.
void.
She's resting quietly.
Just like we
We're
have
taking
done.
good care of her.
If you take a
And she
bird's eye
knows
view
that
at
you'll be
history,
hereafter when she wakes up.
there's not one God
We'll see you in a few
that's
hours.
dominated all of
Don't
time.
worry, she's gonna wake
It
up
evolves.
tail wagging, looking forward
You're
to
more
seeing
in
her
tune
daddy
with
and going home.
the farmland, the weather on your crops. It dictates whether you eat or whether your family starves. So you create a sun god and a rain god. And then your society evolves a little bit and you start worrying less about the stuff at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy. You go higher up. So then you unlock the god of love and emotional stuff. And then eventually you get to a point where you've got the Christian faith, you've got Islam, you've got Judaism. And I don't know how it stood the test of time for 2,000 years, but I don't know if it can stand the test of time for another 2,000.
You know, I talked about the Truman Show earlier. The Truman Show is really a Gnostic allegory of the Demure and the Archons, and that the Gnostic Gospels, like the Gospel of Thomas, the Apocrypha of John, all these texts basically point to the fact that Jesus wasn't God, and that Jesus really was a guy who was here to say that God is within you. Right? You are God. That's how some people interpret that. That feels like the greatest trick ever, man. I think it's true, but I think it's true in the context of both things are real. I think God is within you, but you are not him. Because you are not the highest good, but you have the potential to align with that. And that's what makes us human, likely. I don't want to quote Tate too much for my podcast, but I mean, you do have to evaluate the ways in which it's affecting your own life and how it's making you weaker or less pure and more stressed and more anxious. And I think it's helpful to look at all the stuff you see on your phone through the lens of, where is this trying to take me? Why is it trying to take me there? And then just do the opposite.
What do you see as the future for Gen Z?
The way that I see it is that maybe the art of existence is not the action of painting, and it's definitely not the picture you create at the end. It's likely the reason that you pick up the brush. In other words, the reason you're living is probably the same reason that you haven't killed yourself. That last part's from Hormozy, but have you ever questioned that? Like, why don't I kill myself?
There's a book called The Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus. It's one of the most famous works of philosophy ever. And he starts off by saying, there is but one important question in philosophy. It's, what is it that's stopping you from killing yourself?
You know, a question I always wanted to add to my podcast was, what tattoo would you get? And I think Sisyphus would probably be mine. But it's interesting because I haven't read the story forever, but I would imagine the first few times he rolled the boulder up the hill, he pushed the boulder up the hill, he was likely very excited to get to the top. You know? He's like, just a little bit more, and then it goes to the top, and then it rolls down, and he's like, okay, well, this time, it's gonna be different. This time, it's gonna stay at the top. And then eventually, it's like, why do I keep pushing this thing? Is it because something's trapping me into pushing this thing? Or is it because I like the way the rock feels on my hands? Is it because I'm getting stronger? Is it because each time I push it up the hill, it gets a little easier? I think it's a question people should reference more often.
There's this idea of absurdism.
Oh my god. Oh, it's funny you bring that up. Okay.
You become enlightened to the fact that you existing is inherently absurd because you can't understand the truths of the universe, and you also don't really have a good justification for why you don't just end it all. And the analogy that Joe Foley gives is that you're like an ant. You as a human, alive in this world. This little ant.
911.
And
What's
someone's
your emergency?
drawn a massive circle around you with a marker. And usually what ants do is they mistake it for a wall that they can't cross, so they don't. And this is
TOS
humans when it comes
verified
to
your
killing
location.
ourselves.
Police are on the way.
We kind of don't question it. We don't even see it as an option because we think the natural state is existence, rather than actually being aware of the fact that by keeping ourselves alive every day, we're making an active choice to buy into the game and the rules of it. But what absurdism is becoming the enlightened ant. The one that realizes that this big circle drawn around it isn't actually a boundary. They can cross it if they want, but they choose to stay within it anyways, for the love of it. We realize that there's nothing stopping us from exiting this world. Maybe even that it makes the most sense, but we choose to play the game. That's absurdism.
I feel as though my experiences and my algorithms are drawing me toward absurdity. I'm not too into some of that dark magic spirituality that people do. Maybe it's not dark magic if they don't see it that way, but tarot cards. I keep getting TikTok videos on my For You page of jester cards. And I asked this girl, I was like, you're into this shit. Like, what does a jester mean? She's just like, your life is about to be really absurd. I kept getting these videos over and over again. And I'm like, it does feel that way. It feels like all this stuff is happening and it just keeps getting stranger and stranger. And I think back to the Truman Show movie. I watched it last night. And I kept thinking, like, I think he knew the entire time what was happening to him.
Doppelganger, your twin.
And he just liked to fuck with everyone to make it more
Welcome.
interesting.
Just like you.
So, yeah.
I think that's a game to be played as well as to lean into the absurdity and to own it and to submit to it, right? Because ending it all is objectively a finite game, and me personally, I find infinite games to be more interesting. It's like, if you're an all-powerful person, why not just destroy the world? Why has no one destroyed the world? There was one guy who came close. But maybe the ones who are capable of destroying the world come to the conclusion that infinite games are more interesting.
Do you believe in numerology?
At the very least, it's a useful heuristic for decision making, right? We filmed this podcast on the 8th. I'm a life path 8. Numerology says that, who's the Super Bowl game today? Numerology said that the Patriots were supposed to lose. So we can test it. Did the Patriots lose the Super Bowl?
The Seahawks won.
Fair. I had no idea. I've been with you the entire time. And that's something I love about this episode too, is that I hate mainstream celebrations in general. Like I hate like going out for my birthday or something. My biggest preference is to do a podcast or something. When I filmed with Candace Owens, it was on my birthday. I don't think she knew that, but I was like, this feels so much better than doing a celebration because it's like I'm actually leaning into what I think my purpose to be a little bit.
Why don't you like the celebrations? You think they take you away from your purpose?
I think so. I think there's a time to celebrate, but usually in big events and big days, it's like, why am I giving my energy toward some hedonistic bullshit that I don't really enjoy? It's like, am I enjoying this thing for the enjoyment of other people? Sometimes there's a place for that. You know, it's like when you're a kid, Christmas was really fun, and then I think Christmas gets kind of lame, and then I think you have kids and Christmas is fun again. But back to the numerology, it's hard to not think there's some truth to it. When I was young, my uncle, he's probably my best friend. He died at age 44, and I was curious. I was like, what day did he die on? It's the 9th, a number of things ending. I was like, what was his numerology life path? It was an 8, just like me. I was like, weird. It was like, what's his secondary number? That's basically the number that you use to achieve your life path. So 8 is the number of power and money. He used his secondary number 11, spirit, like spiritual teaching. He was a very spiritual person. And he used that to get that. Mine is intelligence. Maybe I use intelligence to make money. Maybe I use truth seeking to make money. What was so weird about him was he died. So he was born, I think it was 1964. I can't remember the exact year, but it was the year of the wood dragon in Chinese zodiacs. And he lived in a log cabin, which was funny. And he died by a fire in the year of the fire pig, which is so funny because I was born in the year of the snake. And the enemy year of a snake is the year of the pig. And people often die in the enemy year of the person that it hurts the most. So I look at these things, and maybe they're just weird patterns, but they're strange.
You've lived such a life already. You're 24 years old. You've interviewed some of the most famous people in the world. You've made all the money a lot of people could dream of. Do you find it hard to relate to other people?
The lonely at the top thing is very real. I find it extremely hard to relate to other people and for other people to understand me, because they don't have context of all my full experiences, and the amount of time and the amount of hardship I would have to go through with them to share my full experiences would be unreasonable. And it's hard to meet people off the bat these days because there's perceived levels of status associated, perceived levels of wealth. So any person my age is like a little weirded out by me subconsciously. And then there's like the 40-year-old people who are super successful who's like, you're just a young kid. Yeah, I would say it's difficult to relate to people, but it might be like a bell curve issue where I'm smart enough to the point where I can't relate to people, but if I was smarter, I would be able to relate to everyone. I think it's a skill issue, but relating and understanding are different things. I don't think that people at the upper echelons of any discipline or any level of success are capable of being understood by everyone they interact with, but I think they're capable of relating with them.
Understanding is a supply issue. Relating is a skill issue.
I like that.
What's the craziest thing you've ever done to get a podcast guest?
Successful or unsuccessful?
Give me both.
Oh man, I think we tracked down IShowSpeed when he was in LA on his stream.
What do you mean we tracked him down?
Like me and my friend, they were driving the car and I was watching his stream and I was like, okay, he's on the street, he's on the street, he's on the street. And I had this old Rolex that I was given for my birthday by a friend of mine. And I was like, I'm gonna give him a Rolex and say I want 60 seconds of your time. And it was so crazy because I was watching the stream and we were about 4 minutes away from him. And he's like, shit, I need a earring. So he walks into this jewelry shop to get an earring, and the guy gives him a free Rolex. And I'm like, what are the odds that this is happening right as I'm about to give him that? And we ended up missing the street, followed him back to another place, and followed him back to another place. It was like this really exclusive event that he was in, and there was like hundreds of fans waiting outside. And I was like, am I about to climb the fence right now? I didn't. I thought it would be too difficult, but we tried to get speed that way. Tucker Carlson, I went to one of his speaking events. Thousands of people there, man. He sells out stadiums. And afterward, I just went up to every single individual that had a badge on, like a press badge, and was asking them for their email. And I got connected with RFK Jr.'s team, but I didn't get connected with Tucker's team. But yeah, I often try to go into a space that they're in and just ask people who are working there, like, yo, who's the person that says yes or no? I met Andrew Tate because the guy who would unban social media accounts for me got his Instagram unbanned. That was how I originally got the connection with them. They got the Tates unbanned off Instagram, and that's how he had his number, and he introduced me, and that's kind of how we set it up. Candace Owens, I bought a Cameo for her. It wasn't on the app Cameo, it was on Minect, which is kind of like Cameo for business owners or people who like political commentators. Yeah, I paid for a Cameo from Candace, and I basically was like, hey, I have 15 million followers. What's your email address? I want to do a podcast. And she's like, I like the hustle. Here's my email. We'll set it up. And yeah, that actually worked out really well. She was the second podcast we ever posted. Patrick Bet David. I did the same thing because he's the founder of the app Minect. And I asked for like the email. And I said, Patrick asked me to reach out to schedule an interview on this day at this time. And then they were like, great, we'll add it to the calendar.
So what happened when he turned up?
He just thought it was in his schedule.
You know Matt Hancock?
Yeah.
Are you friends with him?
No, I DM'd him today though.
What did you say?
I said, I live in LA. I like your shit. If you want to hang.
Who do you think's better at getting big guests? You or Matt and Evan?
Has he done Nick Fuentes, Alex Ramosi, and Andrew Tate?
No.